Bill and Joel on North Georgia's News Talk, AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
It's time to check out something awesome, something incredible. We were talking about piece of history earlier, and this is a really neat piece of history. If you're planning on running for office, some great advice in a 10-page critique that was actually written back in 1967 and was part of a critique given to President Nixon, actually, who was trying to be president at the time. He's running for president, and some great information in there, but you could own it because it's up for auction. And Barry Livingston joins us from RR Auctions to find out more about not only this document, but a cache of documents from the Nixon years, from one of his writers who happened to be a pretty good joke writer, and that's how he made his living, a comedy writer. Welcome aboard, Richard. Bobby, it's good to have you with us today.
Great to be here.
Bobby, any tapes in this stuff we're auctioning off? You know, still missing a little bit there. I just wondered about that right off the bat.
17 minutes is all we're looking for.
Yeah, I was kind of looking for it, too. No, this is just paper trail, but good stuff from all those guys, Haldeman and Haig. They're all in this stuff.
Oh, there you go. You know, it's great. We were talking earlier this morning about holding on to things, and this is something that we're glad that was held on to. Now, we didn't watch a lot of Laugh-In. I was 7 years old when this was going on, and I remember Laugh-In being above my head, to be honest with you, a little bit. But I do remember Richard Nixon actually going on Laugh-In. Do these critiques and these papers lead to him on that appearance on Laugh-In in 67? Or I guess it was 68, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The guy whose archive this is a man named Paul Keyes, who ended up being a producer on Laugh-In, and he's the one that got Nixon to come down and do that incredible sock it to me, or sock it to me, however he used to say it, that really humanized him. You have to remember that Nixon, and I know you guys do, absolutely lost the 1960 presidential election to President Kennedy after his disastrous appearance, only his appearance on the debates, the presidential debates. People that were in the audience thought Nixon won, or at least tied with Kennedy, live, but on television, Nixon looked sweaty, uncomfortable. He had terrible facial expressions. He looked cold. He looked like a zombie. And this guy Keyes hooked up with him in 1962, and they started to re-image Richard Nixon. So this archive kind of documents that whole process all the way through to the presidency. So it's a fascinating look at how they sat down and re-imaged Richard Nixon, which I think culminates with that Laugh-In appearance.
I think it's interesting to see from what we see of Richard Nixon and saw Richard Nixon, and as you mentioned, that zombie routine and that sort of dour look. I find it interesting that he would hook up with such a funny guy with Keyes, and they had a pretty good friendship through that whole thing.
They did. I think that Nixon immediately recognized Keyes' talent as a political campaign writer. They met on the Jack Paar show, and Keyes was a Republican and, naturally was attracted to Nixon's politics. But he started to write cartoons and do things that were destructive to the Pat Brown campaign when Nixon ran for governor of California. So there's a whole bunch of documents from that time period. Of course, Nixon would lose that election, and that's when he uttered that famous phrase, "You won't have Dick Nixon to kick around anymore," and which wasn't true. So, but the resuscitation of Nixon is all through that stuff from 62 as well.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that Mr. Keyes critiqued the future president on. What did he tell him in some of the writings that you have?
Well, they want everything from his hair. Like, they didn't like the hair product he was using. It looked greasy and fake. They talked about his facial expressions, how intense they were. His eyes smoldered and his face muscles tightened and his lips were down. All kinds of things.
And I see where it said, "Don't clench your fist." And Nixon, I do remember seeing that sometimes. But here, and you mentioned it earlier, and he wrote, "And for goodness sakes, drop the zombie routine." Now, I'm wondering, Richard Nixon was the kind of guy who thought people were out to get him. He was a little nervous, shall we say, or suspicious of people. But he took to Fred Keyes, and knowing this, I just wonder what Nixon's first reaction was when he read this, and then how that transformation happened, because he got it, he understood, and did make some changes.
I can't tell you what Nixon felt when he met Keyes, but I can see the notes that he made on Keyes' documents, where he circled some of these devastatingly harsh things.
Wow.
And checked them and starred them, to learn from them. So This was a critique that Nixon took very, very seriously.
And I understand this cache of documents also has some other writings in it. We also see some writings or letters from Regis Philbin and Diane Sawyer and folks like that. I just find it must be just a fantastic piece of pop culture to go through these documents. It's
really incredible because you just keep coming across all these famous people that intersected with Richard Nixon. Philbin was a journalist, so they ran into each other. But Diane Sawyer, I don't know a lot of people know this, but she was an assistant press secretary to Nixon. Mm-hmm. So we get documents in there from her criticizing the press, her trying to re-image him. There's little letters here from Al Haig. There's some great ones from Bob Haldeman, who, of course, is a key Watergate figure and right-hand man to Nixon. It kind of hints at some of the trouble that's going to come, not so much what happened at Watergate, but the type of work that they were doing together to position Nixon to win.
Well, when is the auction? How would people bid on this?
The auction's actually tonight, so you'd have to go to our website at rrauction.com. You just register. It's free. You can bid, and there's a lot of cool stuff on there. We have an auction every month where we sell neat things like this, from the presidents to scientific figures, aviation figures, sports figures. We specialize in autographs, and we've been doing it for 30 years.
Exciting. You've got a great job. This sounds like a lot of fun, Bobby.
Neat.
It is the best job, guys.
Well, we wish you a lot of luck on that tonight. Thank you very much for being with us. And when you get some other neat stuff, which is probably every week, give us a call. We'll talk about it again if you're looking for people to bid on this. That's rrauction.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Amherst, New Hampshire. So great to talk to you guys, and we'd love to
You
do
too.
that.
Well, have fun with that tonight, and we'll look forward to seeing what that brings. Bobby Livingston from RR Auction here on the Bill and Joel Morning Show on WDUN.